All right, let's talk about one of the most infamous nicknames in all of history, Bloody Mary. It belongs to England's very first queen, Mary I, and today we're going to dig into the real story behind that legend.
I mean, think about it. How on earth does a monarch end up with a nickname like Bloody? That name just screams ruthless, right? So where did it come from? Is it the whole story? That's exactly what we're here to figure out.
For centuries, her name has basically been a stand-in for a few really nasty words. The first one? Tyrant. Then there's fanatic. The idea that she was just completely blinded by her religion, pushing her to do terrible things.
And really, when you put it all together, the picture that's been painted is of a monster. But tonight, we're going to push past that caricature. We're going to find the real woman, Mary Tudor.
So to really get who the queen was, we have to start at the beginning. I mean, her life was a total roller coaster, from celebrated princess to despised outcast, and then all the way back again. And that journey, well, that's the key to everything.
Believe it or not, for the first part of her life, Mary was the absolute jewel of the Tudor court. She was the treasured daughter of King Henry VIII and his first wife, the powerful Catherine of Aragon. She was smart, she was loved, and everyone knew she was going to be queen. No question about it.
And then, just like that, her entire world came crashing down. I mean, look at this timeline. It happened so fast. Her father becomes obsessed with getting a son, so he ditches her mother and breaks away from the entire Catholic Church to do it. Suddenly, Mary is declared illegitimate. Her title, gone. She's ripped away from her mother, who dies alone, and then the ultimate humiliation. She's forced to be a lady-in-waiting to her own baby half-sister, Elizabeth. Can you even imagine? This string of traumas, it shaped her. It gave her this iron will and a faith that, she would cling to for the rest of her life.
But here's the thing about Mary, this outcast princess, she was anything but defeated. Her story is about to take this wild turn. Seriously, it's one of the greatest comebacks in English history.
Okay, so when her younger half-brother, King Edward, dies, a bunch of Protestant nobles see their chance. They try to completely skip over Mary in the line of succession and put her cousin, Lady Jane Grey, on the throne instead. But Mary? Oh no! She was not about to be cast aside again. She gets out of there, she rallies the people who actually supported her, and she marches right on London. And poor Lady Jane Grey? Her reign lasted all of 9 days.
In this quote right here, it really tells you everything. This wasn't some violent takeover. The people wanted her. They saw her as the true heir. The daughter of Catherine of Aragon, who a lot of people still loved. When she rode into London, the city just erupted. Bells, bonfires, cheering. It was a massive celebration. For a little while there, it really seemed like things were finally going her way.
And you have to understand just how huge this was. This was a total game changer. Before Mary, no woman had ever ruled England on her own. She wasn't a queen because she was married to a king. She was a queen regnant. She was the one in charge, setting this incredible precedent that her sister, the much more famous Elizabeth, would eventually build her entire reign on.
But that amazing, triumphant moment, it didn't last. It quickly got overshadowed by really controversial decisions and some deep personal tragedies, the very things that would create that bloody legacy.
So Mary had one primary goal, one mission that drove everything. She wanted to undo her father's Protestant Reformation and bring England back to the Catholic faith. And for her, this wasn't just politics. This was deeply, deeply personal. It was a sacred duty. In her mind, she wasn't just changing laws. She was saving the souls of her people, and, at the same time, finally fixing the terrible injustice that had been done to her and her mother.
And this is it. This is where the Bloody Mary legend is born. To make her vision a reality, her government brought back these old, brutal heresy laws. And the result? Over her 5-year reign, about 280 Protestants were burned at the stake. Now, let's be clear. There's no way to excuse this. It was horrific. It was brutal. And in the end, it didn't even work. It didn't convert the country back.
But to really understand history, we have to add context. So we have to ask the question, was this kind of brutality, was it really something unique to Mary?
Okay, now look at this chart. This really puts things into perspective, doesn't it? The burnings under Mary were absolutely awful, yes, but they were hardly an exception in the incredibly violent Tudor period. Her own sister, Elizabeth I, she ended up executing hundreds of Catholics. And their father, Henry VIII, get this, his purges led to the deaths of tens of thousands of people. So what does this tell us? While Mary's persecutions were very public and gruesome, the actual numbers show she was far from the bloodiest Tudor on the throne, not by a long shot.
And it wasn't just the religious turmoil. Her reign was just plagued with crises. For starters, she married Philip II of Spain, a move that was wildly unpopular with the English people. It led to rebellions and dragged England into Spain's wars, which ended with them losing Calais, their last piece of land in France, a huge humiliation. And then, the most heartbreaking personal tragedy of all. She had not one, but 2 phantom pregnancies. She was desperate for a Catholic heir to secure everything she'd fought for, and this very public failure just left her completely crushed and alone.
So, that brings us back to the big question. If her actions weren't really that out of the ordinary for a Tudor ruler, why is she the one who gets stuck with the name Bloody Mary? Well, the answer has everything to do with who got to write the history books after she died.
Right after Mary died, her Protestant sister Elizabeth became queen, and a whole new story started being told. This book, Acts and Monuments, or as most people called it, Fox's Book of Martyrs, came out. It was filled with these incredibly graphic, sensational stories about the Protestants who were burned under Mary. It became a massive bestseller, the kind of book you'd find in almost every English home, right next to the Bible. And that book, more than anything else, is what cemented her reputation as a monster for hundreds of years.
And this slide just lays it all out perfectly. On one side, you've got the propaganda version, the story told by her enemies. Mary was a bloodthirsty tyrant, a religious fanatic. But on the other side, you have how modern historians see her, a much more complex figure, a principled ruler, yeah, but also an uncompromising one, shaped by incredible trauma, whose policies, while we see them as cruel today, were actually pretty consistent with other rulers of her time.
So, where does that leave us? Let's be real. Mary was no saint. The burnings were a horrific part of her reign. But when you factor in the absolute trauma she survived, her incredible achievement as England's first queen, and the powerful propaganda machine that wrote her legacy, maybe it's time to see her as something more than a one-dimensional villain. Maybe it's time to remember Mary Tudor not as a monster, but as one of history's most tragic and most misunderstood queens.